Let's go over and let's talk about the Goron portion. And I have to admit, in Breath of the Wild, the Goron portion was my least favorite part by far.
Same. I didn't
There's
like it.
something about it that I just there's something about
Feels
like
like
the
a
Death
chore.
Mountain topography that's just kind of like it's not as interesting to me as like Hebra or like the jungle areas or like Zora's Domain or Gerudo Desert, anything like that. Not that I dislike it, but it's like the least interesting to me, and
Hmm.
I don't know why. And then I thought Yunobo like kind of sucked. He's just kind of a wiener in Breath of the Wild, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a young Goron learning to find confidence and learning to find self worth, which is a great story. Um, but I mean, let's call it what it is. He's kind of a wiener in Breath of the Wild, and he was a little bit of a wiener in Age of Calamity as well, although maybe less of one. And a lot of people, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, a lot of people were like, "Where's Yunobo? Where's
Yeah, where
Yunobo
was
in that
he?
trailer? Oh my god!" And we speculated that he might just be a few paces behind Riju and Sidon, and that could be true depending on when that actually takes place. But man, I was like, when I decided to go on next, I was like, I'm gonna do it in the middle because I'm not super stoked about doing it.
But I did
Um,
the same thing. I was like, I know I'm not gonna really like this section, so I'm gonna go do it now.
yeah, and I would say that when I started this, I kind of was still of that opinion, but I am going to publicly right now on this show for everybody to hear. I'm going to apologize to Yunobo. I am going to say that the fire portion is probably the best portion of any regional phenomenon, and I am going to eat some crow because this was awesome. This was so awesome. Like the whole getup. I was like incredibly charmed by the premise of what was happening to the Gorons, the cyberpunkness of like this corporation, and then
Yeah.
getting to the actual fire temple itself. So where let's start at the beginning. So you got there. What were you feeling when you showed up?
First of all, like the region itself is completely different because all the lava has dried. And I remember when we saw one of the trailers, I was pointing out how Death Mountain looked different in the trailer than it did in Breath of the Wild because in the section where they were mine carting to some moblins, there's just a pond of lava down there, and there wasn't in the trailer. So I was like, what happened to Death Mountain to make it different? And clearly, all the lava dried up and made more land to traverse around
Mm,
Death Mountain. So that was different, and I actually really like that because it made it easier to go Korok hunting and rare ore deposit hunting for me. So I thought that was cool. I liked that the region itself changed enough to make it something new to explore. But then you get to town and you're looking for what's going on with these Gorons, and they're all like in a trance, in a creepy little trance, eating some rocks.
what is? I'm desperately trying to look it up. What it is because I
I
can't
think it's
remember.
like
It's like marbled
marbled,
rock,
yeah,
something like that. So
something like that.
man, you show up to Goron City, and there's only a select few that have not eaten this marbled rock, and they're like, "What is
Hmm.
going on with all these Gorons here?" The Gorons are basically acting like I have been for like the last 2.5 weeks, where all they want to do is play Tears of the Kingdom. So all they want to do is eat this marbled rock. They don't care about anything else. Their eyes are
Mhm.
glowing red. They're like zombies. They just want to eat this rock. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. And then I I don't know if I can even explain properly, but I made like an audible gasp and a cheer at the same time when I saw Yunobo. This guy comes up, he's dressed like a luchador, he's got this awesome mask on, and he's a total prick. And I was like, yes, yes, this is awesome. He looks awesome, and he's built up his own corporation. Yunobo, what is it called? Yunobo HQ, where he like has all this construction going on, building new stuff in Gora or like the Death Mountain region, and the wealth has corrupted him, and he's like his evil corporation is taking over. And I was like, yes, this is like cyberpunk Zelda. This is awesome. I was so in love with this portion of the game. It was so good.
Hey, okay. I will say that I didn't have quite the same reaction. I
Oh,
like love that it was different, but I was just like, why on earth, because I know that even though like we kind of poo on Yunobo from Breath of the Wild, he's such like a kind soul. I was like, why is he such a jerk? Like, why is he dressed like such a loon? And like, I almost wondered too if he was like corrupted by greed and corporation, but like it didn't. In my mind, it didn't make sense, and I was like, something's going on with him. Something's wrong with him. Is it the marbled rock? And then you come to find out, that there is something wrong with him. But so I was like, I'm glad I trusted my instinct, because I was like, he just looks like a goof and sounds like a jerk. Like, what is going on?
He looks spectacular, first of all.
Whatever.
He looks
I thought
awesome.
He looked like a goober.
This guy looks like Seth Rollins coming out in one of his ridiculous get-ups to fight for the world title.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I loved the idea of Yunobo. I loved it, and like yeah, you're right. Like I was like, okay, well like something is wrong with Yunobo. Right. Like this isn't like the Yunobo from before, because it was extreme. But man, I wish that he would have stayed like that for like the whole game. Actually, like with the awesome getup, with the awesome mask, with the the chip on his shoulder, the attitude. I was like, this is the Yunobo that I want. This guy rocks.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded if that section had lasted a little bit longer, because you break him free from it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, that was a huge shock, but I kind of wish it was a huge shock a little bit longer than it was.
I agree. Yeah. But I mean, I get why you do it, because you need his abilities in order to. Right. But yeah, I do agree. So yeah, as you say, you actually fight Yunobo. Like, and I wouldn't necessarily call this like a boss battle, because it's pretty easy. It's actually it's very easy, deceptively easy. But you get to throw down with him a little bit, and you break the mask, and then you find out that maybe someone had given him that mask, which we'll talk about at a later time. We don't need to get that detailed. Although I mean, I guess if you're listening to this, you've probably completed the quest and But I don't know. We'll talk about that portion later.
Yunobo. Mm-hmm.
Ayo.
So yeah, like somebody gave him the mask that corrupted him to act like such a jerk, and even the kids that were trying to help him, they're like, stop being a jerk. Like,
yeah, those little Gorons. I don't know.
They were cute.
I was like, I don't know if I'm buying that these two little Goron kids weren't chomping down on marbled rock or whatever. It's like,
if I remember right, I think it didn't affect them the same way it did the adults, because it was always like a young adult Goron that was affected. The elderly Gorons and the children were not affected.
Well, I guess there you go. The innocence of children saves the day here, and then the hubris of adult Gorons just turns them into zombies and makes them eat marble rock. So it's actually inferred that Yunobo did not eat marble rock, but it's the mask that is controlling him. But it was inferred that Yunobo did found, but he made it for, I guess, the right reasons, quote unquote, the right reasons. Mm-hmm. It seems like he did find that marbled rock on his own. Is that correct?
I can't remember. The person who gave him the mask, though, told him to keep digging for. I'm pretty sure they guided him to find it and to feed it to the Gorons and to keep digging for it once he was like kind of corrupted by the mask. That's kind of the gist that I got, and how they were like, you got to get back to work so we can find more of this marbled rock, not because we have a company where we mine stuff. It was for that rock.
Right. Okay. So you free Yunobo, which again, it's a little bit early, but I was like, okay, he has a pretty cool ability actually, which is fairly useful, I find, because like I got tired of like putting rocks on swords to break rocks and stuff like that. So
we're using all my bomb flowers,
yeah. So we got Yunobo free and on his right mind, which was good. And then so you basically are just like, okay, we got to go and find the source of this marbled rock, and the source is literally at the top of Death Mountain. That is where we saw who that encouraged us to mine all the marbled rock in the first place. So you make your way up, and man, again, just delivers. So you have a fight, and this fight was awesome. So you fight Moragia, who's like this three-headed rock dragon thing. The rising from the Death Mountain crater is the official title of this thing. And this fight, again, I keep on saying it, but man, this was awesome. So you get a wing, you attach some fans to it, and God bless because it doesn't drain your batteries when you're on it. Sometimes a game does that. They're just like, you know what, you can just use this.
Yeah, especially in dungeons.
Yeah.
Or not dungeons, shrines.
Yeah, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But man, this was so cool because like Yunobo, his new ability is like he rolls up in a little ball and you can shoot him. So anytime you're on a minecart or like a moving vehicle of any sorts, you can you could be going and you can shoot him off and break whatever's in your way. This fight was so like it was short, but it was wicked. I had such a fun time again with it and just being up in the sky and swerving and I actually got blasted the first time. I think I died and then I had to. I did. Well, I was still trying to get down like the controls of the wing, and yeah, I think I just thought like, the fight will be easy, and I had like 3 hearts, and my hubris was punished.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, the climb up to Death Mountain, the top of Death Mountain, was much more fun in this game than it was
Oh my god.
And it was like simple too. Like you literally just use vehicles to get up there and mine carts to get up there and all that kind of stuff. It was much more simple than the convoluted avoid the guardians with Yunobo in the first game. But then you get to the top, and I will say this too about the bosses in this game that are coming back are a lot of like classic, Zelda bosses. And so it was Volvagia, but it was Moragia, and it was a 3-headed dragon coming out of the volcano, and it was just massive and so cool. And I was honestly confused why I was fighting a boss so quickly because I hadn't done anything dungeon-wise yet.
Mm-hmm.
But God, that was so cool. I was just like, oh my God, it's Volvagia, but it's from the volcano, and it was so cool.
This was awesome. It was so much fun. Like fighting this boss, getting your way. So I had already kind of creeped up to the top of Death Mountain before, so I had already activated the shrine. So when I got Yinobo, I was just kind of like, okay, let's just go up.
It's still just as simple either way.
Yeah. I think so too. I don't think there's anything missing there. But yeah, so now we got to eliminate the big marbled rock like crater in the middle of Goron City, and by God, explore this crater in Death Mountain and save the Goron people. And you go in. I just like you alluded to earlier. I was like so. I don't know, impressed, I guess is the word, but like with this dungeon down in the depths, I was just like, this is so fun that like they just put this like ginormous thing in the depths and like made it again, like kind of like you said, like it kind of makes sense, like why we didn't stumble across it in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So going down there and fighting all of the different like creatures and whatever on your way to the Fire Temple, I thought was like awesome, and using all like the minecarts. I'm a sucker for minecarts, but using them to get to where you're going. Oh God, this was. I feel like everything in the Fire Temple was like everything leading up to the Fire Temple was super fun and super awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, again, it's so cool that they took something in the depths too. Like, can you imagine if you were exploring the depths beforehand and you got up there and you were just like, "What is this place?" And it turns out it's the dungeon. And this would be another one of those like dungeons where you were saying beforehand, why didn't they call it the boat's name? This one they could have called Grandia, which is the city, the ancient city that's underneath Death Mountain. But they called it the Fire Temple instead. And I remember I played the Fire Temple before you did, and I was like, playing this, I was like, Andy's gonna freaking love this dungeon. Like I knew it. I couldn't wait for you to do it. But yeah, it was fantastic. And I know Josh made a comment in the break room a few days ago that it's a lot like the Fire Temple and Spirit Tracks, which I agree with. But Spirit Tracks is very limited. I feel like that you had a lot of freedom in this, but it was pretty similar, just in with the minecarts, and I keep wanting to say minecarts, and like the puzzles to get yourself into these different rooms was pretty cool, and I loved it. I thought I had a lot of fun. And something I noticed too with these dungeons is like the more you progress in them, the music gets different and better and more bombastic, kind of like final dungeons and Zelda games in the past. So that I really liked it in this particular temple. It was awesome.
Best music is in the Gerudo dungeon. So there you go.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, you were right. I think it was our first episode that we did after Tears of the Kingdom came out, right? Where you're like, oh, dude, you're gonna like the Fire Temple, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go play it right now. I was kind of trying to do what you were doing, where I was like, don't rush too fast, don't do anything. But I was like, yeah, okay, let's go do this. And you were right. I thought it was incredible. I think the Fire dungeon is probably the best. Probably the best one, I think.
Okay. I don't know if I've decided yet. I kind of want to do them
There's
all
another
first.
contender. There's another contender. I think I would say that I like this more than the Wind Temple, which I like the Wind Temple a lot, but this one felt to me like the perfect mix of like that new modern open world Zelda with like a traditional Zelda dungeon with none of the divine beast silliness in there.
Yeah. I would agree. I think I do like this one more than the Wind Temple, just because the Wind Temple definitely felt a lot like Meadow, whereas this did not feel like Rudani at all. It felt like you were in an ancient temple and you were like figuring out the different rooms, and using the minecarts to get there was super cool.
And there was structure to the way that you do this, or the way that you should do this. Like there is an order to it, which I think is like rewarding almost, because like it sometimes that is missing from these other like when you can kind of when there's 4 things and you can just go and do them in whatever order you want, it's not like as rewarding. And I think that is where like the modern Zelda open world dungeons fall a little bit short, is like in previous dungeons you'd had this kind of like gimmick or mechanic that would kind of drive everything you do in the dungeon, and you don't always get that in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild dungeons, but this one you do. This one is all about your minecart path, and I'll stop talking there. We'll talk about the dungeons later, but I thought that this dungeon was awesome. The boss battle was awesome, and yeah, just it was really fun. So I think that I came away like incredibly impressed with the Goron part, especially, and maybe it's because my expectations were low, because I was just like, Yinobo, all right, let's get this over with. And when I left, I was like, damn, that was awesome. Like that. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the ZeldaCast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.